Hey, this is Daryl from the Jackson Fishing Team, and today we're going to tie up another shad fly. It's called the St. John's High Tie Minnow, and I don't know, pretty fun to tie. Looks pretty simple, but it's I think it's a challenge for myself anyway. Anyway, let's take a look at the pattern and we'll explain the materials as we tie it. So the St. John's High Tide Minnow is another shad fly, and I like to tie, since you got to put a bump on them before you tie the other materials on, I like to tie that all on at one time because I put a little adhesive on there to let it cure. So you can see these ones here are dry. Use 210 denier red thread because this fly is tied in red. But when I tie it tie the fly, then I have them all prepped and I just have to go through the simple process of tying on the materials. So I'm going to start with my red thread, you know, a hook eye, 2 hook eyes, maybe a hook eye and a half behind the eye of the hook. And I'm going to take it back probably approximately pretty close to where the point is. And I'm just going to build up. And I'm going to try to keep my thread as flat as possible so it doesn't fall off the steep bump. And you can see this is building up a bump pretty fast compared to if I was using, you know, a 140 denier thread, which I'll use on there for the rest of the fly. And this has helped position the wings that flare up, or not flare, are pointed up to the hook point. And I think that's pretty good right there, and I'll just whip finish that. Then I'm going to just take some hard as nails. You could probably use UV if you want, but you know, it's a shad fly. I'm not going to use some good quality adhesive. And then just paint over that bump, and that's going to be basically your body as well. Alright, we'll let that dry and then we will get on to tying up the fly. Well, this is the St. James High Tide minnow pattern that we're going to tie. And we're going to tie this one in orange, but I would try tying them up in hot pink or chartreuse. It's going to look like that when it's being fished. But anyway, so let's get the hook out of there and explain what's going on. All right. Again, the hook that I'm using is the same one we've been using. It's Mustad 3407, the size 6. And that is dried now. We had prepped a bunch of these to put that bump in there, and that's basically what our body looks like. And we'll go ahead and just start our thread. On there. Okay, the bottom, we're going to put the bottom wing on there, and that's going to be some white calf tail or kip tail, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to kind of clear it out. I'm going to just grab up here on the tips and take out all the shorts. We're going to go ahead and tie that in so that that wing just goes past the curve of the hook. Counter spin my thread here. I'm going to pick that up. That bump is supposed to help lift it up, but I'm going to just give it a couple more wraps under here. And then I'm going to trim that off. And then I'm going to kind of clear out some of that there. Got a little bit of fur in there, and this sometimes works for me by heating up the point of my bodkin, and it gets it hot enough, and that kind of clears that out. Next material I'm going to use is some of this Flashaboo Mirage in orange, and I only need 2 or 3 strands. And I'm going to fold it in half. Yeah. And then I'm going to draw this up and just make it just a little bit longer. Than that. And I'm going to change this a little bit, because most of the time we're going to do right now is we're going to be upside down. The next material I'm going to use is some orange calf tail. And again, I'm going to clean it out. And I want this to be about the same length as the white one. And I'm just going to, now I'm going to trim off. And next I'm going to use some orange bead chain on there. And then I'm going to make sure I've got it level. And then we'll helicopter around that to tighten it up. And then we'll give it some whip finishes behind the bead chain. We'll trim that off. And we'll put some cement on those threads. And I think I got to clean that out a little bit. Yeah, that worked. All right. Hopefully that'll catch some shad. All right, that's a pretty easy fly to tie, especially if you prep up a bunch of those hooks with that red thread and harden that up with some Sally Hansen's or hard as nail. And hope you find that interesting, that you'll tie some of those up if you're a shad fisherman. They're only around a short period of time, a few months out of the year, like in the early spring like this. When the waters are around 58, maybe 60 degrees, they start coming up this way through here, at least in the Charleston area. And we will catch you on the water, and hopefully I'll have some good videos of shad fishing. All right, we'll talk to you later.